Alrighty, so the Glacial Tunnels update has been out for about a week now, and things are pretty good actually. Overall, I think the update is fairly solid, however, there are a couple issues related to mining as a whole that I do want to talk about in this video. Now, the last time I cooked in a video like this, I got quite a few comments saying I should never do this again, but I do like the torture of the YouTube comment section, so I've decided to come back for more. Today we're going to be talking about Devons Alloy, as well as the Shattered Locket and the Pendant of Devon, both of which I think have some pretty major issues in their current state. Starting off today, I want to talk about the Shattered Locket, which is a new item that you need in order to make the Pendant of Devon, and it can be found in the Glacial mineshafts by opening up a Vanguard Frozen Corpse using a skeleton key. Now, the skeleton key requires you to get Heart of the Mountain tier 10, a perfect plate, and a bejeweled handle. This overall isn't a crazy item to make, but the problem isn't even in the skeleton key itself, it's in the drop chance of the Shattered Locket, which is between 1 in 282 corpses and 1 in 273 corpses. In my opinion, this has a few issues. First off, for Iron Man players specifically, which we're going to talk about stuff other than Iron Man, I completely understand people who think that Iron Man shouldn't be taken into account, but for Iron Man players specifically, this is a nightmare item to get. People have done the math on this when it comes to forge slots and all the amount of time that you're going to need in order to make this. Looking at the average drop rate, it's about 5,000 total hours in order to get this item, doing it non-stop. I have my problems with this. I think this more extends to the fact that the amount of forge slots in the game is just not enough at the moment. I feel like 5 was fine when the first original Dwarven Mines update came out. It was a little less fine when the next update came out, and now we're 3 or 4 updates past that, and it's still at 5. I feel like they could very easily double it to 10, or maybe make it tied to Peak of the Mountain or something like that, but there very much should be more forge slots in the game. That is a separate quality of life issue unrelated to the Locket. But I also feel like with the Locket specifically, it doesn't really work. And the reason why is because A, the Locket is part of a set, or at least the Pendant is part of a set, that players are going to want to eventually get all of. And number 2, a lot of other mining items, other than one that we'll get into later, are usually things where you can figure out a path to get it. And I think that's what works best in Skyblock. Even things like Slayer drops, which initially look like complete RNG, are not really. Things like the RNG meter make it so that you know generally how long it will take to get the rare item. This is completely randomized. You could get super lucky and get it in 4 or 5 corpses. You could get super unlucky and it could take you 10 million. Now that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you fundamentally understand my point. You could keep theoretically burning time and money on this and never be rewarded, which I don't think really makes sense for an item that isn't even that good. Now, I understand the logic of people wanting rare items in the game, and my response to you if you want those rare items in the game is that you already have them in the form of dyes and things of that nature. If the admins want to keep super rare items in the game, that is totally fine by me. However, in my opinion, they should be solely relegated to cosmetic items or things that can be sold for a lot of money but don't really affect the player base, which these dyes do excellently. Moving further on that point, I think looking at other rare to get items in this game is pretty notable. Look at things like Hyperion, which has an RNG meter. Look at things like Terminator, which has an RNG meter. A lot of these items are difficult to get, but you always know the path in order to do so, and it at least looks like you're making progress on that path even when you don't. The Vanguard Frozen Corpse just feels like complete RNG. It feels like I'm sitting down at the slot machine and I've just wasted my time and money if I don't get anything out of it. And I'm not sitting at a slot machine, although Skyblock sometimes feels like it. I'm playing a game and I want to be able to make progress towards an item that I want. Speaking of making progress towards items that I want to talk a little bit about Devons Alloy. This is a rare drop that can be gotten from the Crystal Nucleus Loot Bundle. It has a global drop chance instead of a local one that starts at 1 in 800,000 per Crystal Nucleus Loot Bundle. Every 3 Skyblock days, the global drop chance is multiplied by 10, capping at 1 in 8,000. Now I'm going to be honest, I think that the drop chance thing, for the global system at least, is pretty cool. However, it's super gimmicky, and let's be honest, it hasn't really panned out the way people wanted it to. A lot of people have been calling for an RNG meter for this item. I ran a poll the other day, and as you can see, overwhelming majority state that there should be an RNG meter for this item. Now obviously tyranny of the majority isn't very good, so I do want to give you more logical and nuanced points as to why this should be the case. Number 1, in my opinion, it feels like the Devons Alloy limits the design of future drills. I feel like one of the new things that we could have gotten with this update is a new drill that specializes in things like Glacial. However, the admins are very skeptical on adding new drills to the game because obviously, the Devons drill is the best one in the game. It has its own rarity, for God's sake. It's one of the best items in the entire game, and obviously they don't want to overcome it in any way, shape, or form. Now, in my opinion, I would be totally fine with them dropping the rarity by 1, making it so the Devons Alloy had an RNG meter, and adding new drills over time to further complicate and further engage the player in gaining these new items. I don't really understand the logic about keeping one item the best permanently. I think Skyblock is a game that works best when there is further progression added on, and for something like the Glacial mineshafts and the Glacial tunnels, I feel like there's a lot they could do there, a lot they could add to make things more interesting. My other point, really, is that the Devons drill is not that much of an improvement over the 655, and it really doesn't justify this separate system that's totally different than everything else in Skyblock in order to get the rare item needed to make it. Now, you could just say that I'm just complaining about the fact that I don't have one, and that's a totally understandable complaint. However, I do also think that it would be better for the game as a whole if it had an RNG meter associated with it, even if I myself am not going to go for the item at all. Keep in mind as well that I am saying this purely from a game design perspective, and a lot of people do end up agreeing with me on this point, whether they be people who are very good at Skyblock near the max level or at the max level, or people who are very bad at Skyblock and want everything handed to them. There's a lot of consensus around this point, and I feel like the Shattered Locket and also the Pendant of Devon have further amplified these calls for things like an RNG meter, or at the very least for more forged slots and things of that nature. Now, I understand that players in this game play it because they want to get rare and unique items. They like the chance, they like the randomness, and I myself like the randomness and chance. However, I think that this game should be balanced in such a way where that randomness and chance is not frustrating and is not unnecessary. And I feel like in certain cases, especially with things like Devons Alloy, it is a little bit unnecessary. I like the system that the admins have been using recently, in which there is a path in order to get rare items. And they've even stated previously that they don't want RNG to exist in such a way where it's completely random and you have no knowledge of when you'll get rare and unique items. However, what I don't understand is why, based on that logic, things like the Devons Alloy and also the Shattered Locket exist, at least in their current states. I feel like the game would be significantly improved if there was an accurate way to discern when you're going to get these rare items. And if you want that super rare, ultra rare experience where you just drop something absolutely crazy, we already have that in the form of dyes, which a lot of people don't like because they think those items are too rare. That's not something for me to decide. I'm just here to talk to you and yap about the Glacial Tunnels update, which overall I think is an excellent addition to the game as a whole. I hope that the admins consider these thoughts in the video as well as the thoughts down below. I'm certain I'll have an excellent comment section with nobody telling me that this was a terrible idea. At the end of the day though, my name's Derailious. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. If you liked it, leave a like down below. Also consider subscribing. I'm sure I'm going to need a few more of those after this one goes out. And look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.